Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video we're going to be doing a bit of an update on this, the Motostandard 1010, which is back in the workshop. Been a while since we've had this tractor in the workshop and actually been working on it, and that's because it always has been an infill project and will probably continue to be. But let's just recap some of the stuff we've done on it already. We adjusted the spacing and put a new pivot bolt in there so that the front axle now has no forwards and backwards movement in it, which is good. We also did a fix on clutch pedal problem. We also made up a new button to go on the lift lever, which we haven't put on yet. We put new pins, or made up new pins to go on the deck hanger as well, which they're still nice and shiny. And more recently, we got our replacement engine and got that to run. So that's helpful, so that once we've done everything we need on the chassis, we can just dump that in and we know it works. Only problem when it comes to dumping the engine in is the fact that I doubt this mess will work with the new engine, so we'll probably have to rewire it. So the plan for today is to take it apart more, find out what we need to fix, what we need to buy, what issues there still are. And at the same time, when we're taking it apart, we're going to clean it up a bit more, because you can see bits at the front here, which we cleaned up off video before we started recording today. We took this off and polished all this up, which this is always going to be the nicest bit, because it's where all the engine oil was, protecting the paint. But still, as you look further back, it's still pretty mucky. It'd be nice to get it all cleaned up nicely, so we'll do that as we go through and try and find any remaining issues. Time to start taking it apart, and I'll go for the easy bit first. Wow, that came off easily, almost as if we took that off last time it was in here. Anyway, next thing we want to take off is this panel here. And to take this off, you have to take off the plastic dashboard. And to take that off, you can see the steering column goes through it. So we need to take off the steering wheel. And because this could have been a bit of a showstopper for this whole taking this bit apart, we have already done this. And what we did was we took the nut off on the end of the steering column and then made up this plate, which goes around the steering column underneath the steering wheel there, and then attached the puller or our puller to this, and then pulled it until it came loose, rather than putting the puller directly on the steering wheel. Now I'll just take this off. There we go. Steering wheel detached. Next thing we're going to do is take off this top plastic dash panel, which is held on by 4 of these studs here, which have 10mm nuts on them. And they are pretty rusty. We've sprayed them all with releasing agent. So what we're going to do, in the hope of reusing them, is just work them a bit backwards and forwards on the threads to try and clean out the threads a bit, which will obviously quite time consuming. So we'll come back to you once we've done that for all 4 of them and gotten the dash panel off. We've undone everything, so in theory this should now come off. like so. And that leaves us with this bottom metal panel to come off. So this lower part of the dash appears to be held on at places where other bits are held on. Like the battery tray has 2 bolts going through this part of the dash, and the steering column has the same on the 2 back bolts. So what we'll have to do is take those off first, which we're going to go for the battery tray first, and like the studs on here, we're going to work them a bit to clean out the threads and stuff. All 3 bolts out now, and it should theoretically just lift off now. And it does, and that's a nice mess underneath. And by the looks of it, there's 2 washers here, which are for spacing, so that it's the same height here as on here, because obviously the dash goes underneath it. So that's interesting. We'll have to remember that for when we're putting it back together. We've also taken off the solenoid, so there's no wires or anything in the way now. And to get this out, we are going to have to undo at least the back 2 bolts on the steering column. And we've had a look, and we can't really get to them. One way to get to them might be to turn the tractor upside down, but we've been there, done that, and can't be bothered to do it again, because that took a while. So this will take more than 2 pairs of hands, probably. So we'll come back to you once we've figured out what we're going to do, and have probably done it. Quite a long time later now, and we discovered by taking the woodruff key out of that, we could actually unbolt and take off this piece, supporting the steering column. But the bolts for that are quite precariously balanced in that, and we'd prefer not to lose them and let them drop down, because they're very difficult to get to. So going to have to take this out very carefully and do all of our cleaning up stuff very carefully. So I tilt this back and lift it up now. You can see what the situation is underneath it. There we go, even more mess. Now, because of how everything is balanced at the moment, we're probably going to do the cleaning up stuff very quickly off camera to try and get the nuts back in those bolts to stop them going anywhere. We've done all the cleaning up that we need these off for now. So, time to put this back on carefully. Rest that like that. And get this on here as well. Then I've got to wiggle this about a bit. Put this in. And now, off camera, we're going to try and get all of the nuts and washers in without having these bolts drop through. With this stuff back on, it's kind of worry over now, because those bolts aren't going to fall through. We'll put the rest of the dash and everything there on at a later date. Now, what I'm now going to do is take off both of the footrests so that we can have a look behind them at the linkage and stuff, because there's a clutch linkage and stuff behind this one, which there's just 4 bolts underneath, 2 here and 2 at the back here. try to keep the stuff together if I can. Alright, now this should just come out like so, and that's actually a lot more debris underneath them than I was expecting. With the steps off now, we gave them very quick clean up, and then we started looking at some other things. So this piece of clutch linkage here, as you can see, has absolutely zero play in it, which is very good. However, something that isn't very good is that transmission brake cable. You can see goes almost the full length of the travel of the brake pedal before it actually engages, and this appears to be at the end of its adjustment, so there's some investigating we need to do there. Now if we head around to the other side, we did a similar thing on this side, just a quick clean up because it had an equal amount of mess on there. Now we've got a bit more access to the front the PTO engagement lever, and this mechanism works very well. There doesn't appear to be any play in it or anything like that. Looking at the back of the tractor now, and having just done a bit of brief examination, I think I found where we can adjust the clutch, the brake here, which you can see we should be able to just undo these and move them up, but we'll probably do this once we've got the engine in, so that we can work out exactly where the brake needs to be to cut off power to or like drive. But something even worse that we've noticed, amongst all the dirt that we appear to have not cleaned off very well when we had this upside down, is this. Now the bush that's on for this input shaft is clearly had it, because that is a lot of movement there, and that is really not an easy job to replace that bush if we're going to take apart the whole back axle. We suspect this gearbox isn't a Motostandard one, it's probably one that they bought in from somewhere, so if someone knows what brand of gearbox these are, then please let us know, that would be quite helpful. But having found that problem on the back, let's go back to the front. Time to go on to the steering, and we'll start with the good side first, which is the left front. Now the biggest bit of wear we've got on this is there in the stub axle, where the steering rod goes into it. You can see there's miles of play there, which I'll show you where part of it is caused. This is how the pins work on these. They kind of like clip round into the tie rod ends, and you can see the massive amount of wear there on that. And then if I take this off, you can see that's also ovaled a bit, so wear in both places. Just put this back in for the moment. And right, the next one I'm going to show you is a wear in this end part of the axle. It's pretty minimal compared to the other one, but you can still see there's a bit of movement there. And now the third bit of wear is how the wheel moves on the stub axle. Can't really see it too well, but there is a bit of sideways wear of the wheel on the stub axle. Before we go on to the other side, I'll just show you a bit of an example of the wear on this wheel. You could hear there it moving backwards and forwards. Now I'll move over to this side and we'll show you the wear in this, which has got this extra point of wear, which is where this comes from the steering quadrant. And you can actually see there's a lot of wear in that one. Really not good. Then we move up here. There's a bit of wear in this one. Not as bad as the other side. Now we get to the bit where it's really worn. Well, if we put the wheel back on, you can see there's, quite a bit of wear there. And that's worn pretty much past the centre point on the edges, which is very bad. And that's going to be a bit of a difficult fix. Not fully sure how Dad managed to wear it down that far and still use it. That's his problem now. And also in the wheel, because of this, it's worn down very far as well. On the other side, you could see there's like tube bit coming out. That's completely, almost completely worn down now. Even though Dad appears to have put a shim or a spacer or something in there to try and reduce the wear. But now let's have a look at a couple of options for what we might be able to do about this. Our ideal solution for this would be to buy a new or replacement or second-hand front right stub axle for this Motostandard. However, we've looked in the UK, in Germany, because again it's a German tractor, and we can't find any for sale. So we'll leave this to one of the last jobs, in the hope that in the time between now and whenever we decide that it's time to do this, we can find a replacement one of these. However, in the meantime, we've gotten out a selection of stub axles from other tractors to try them. Now this is a Boland's 600 stub axle, and we measured the diameter of this, and that's 20 millimeters. Now this is 7/8 or 22 millimeters, just over 22 millimeters. And if we put this up against here, you can see that this is too short, the Boland's one, and it's not really at the right angle. So that's a no, as well as the fact that it's a different thickness, which is workable with some different arrangements. Then we looked at these, which are Wheelhorse Raider 9-1s. These are 3/4, which is about 19 millimeters, and these are also too short. So then we moved on to our best option of these ones, which is a Westwood stub axle, which this is also 3/4, so about 19 millimeters. And if we kind of line this up here, it's more than long enough for what we need it to do. And also, the angle looks about right. So, if we can't get a replacement one of these, it looks as though we're going to be probably modifying one of these Westwood stub axles. Final thing to deal with on the front would be taking off the tow bar from here and then putting it back to the back where it should be, because it should be mounted in a similar way but on the back end of the chassis. However, we probably won't do that yet because we can use the tow bar to kind of lift it and use it or move it a bit like a wheelbarrow at the moment while that wheel is out of action and that stub axle is messed up. However, for the first time with the Motostandard, let's go and make a whiteboard list. Now time to write up our job list. It's been a while since that hasn't said Raider 9. Now, first thing I'll put here is the engine fit, so putting the replacement engine back in and connecting it up and working out spacing and all that. Wiring, which we're going to have to, as we said earlier, rewire pretty much all of the tractor, I'm pretty sure. Next, we'll go with rear axle repairs, which that was actually quite concerning, that play in that input pulley. Then steering, which off of that I'll put a couple of like small notes saying rod ends and bushings. Now there we'll go with, by the way, if you see me looking over here, that's because I've got a list that I need to go from. Stub axle, slash wheel repair. That's not exactly going to be fun, that job. Then clutch and slash brake adjustment. There we go. And we've got to reverse how the seat is mounted, because although we haven't talked about it in this video, in a previous video we said about how the seat was mounted the wrong way on the bracket, and therefore the bracket and the fender had been mounted the wrong way on the tractor. So we'll redo that so that it's original. And then we've got the lift handle slash gear knob, which are less things that it absolutely needs to be running and more of things we'd like for using it. Then we need to move the tow bar. Now finally it's the clean and refit. Sorry for the hesitation on that, I couldn't actually read Dad's writing and this pen is now playing up a bit. But yeah, once we've got all parts we want apart, then we can go back, clean them, and then obviously put them back on. Now from this list we can work out our shopping list and how much Dad's going to have to spend on this tractor. Please do let us know if you think we've missed anything out from the list that we might have said earlier and forgotten. But since this is an infill project, the videos on the Motostandard might not be every week, but they will be continuing. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.